can we talk about actually? I guess you mentioned lessons learned, right, and kind of learning, improving. Actually, one before I go there, I'm gonna ask you about that, and I'm gonna tell you a little story. So I want to know about some of the lessons that you've learned with your team, right? And I really value cultures that embrace kind of making mistakes, embrace small failures, so we get to learn from those. So I'd love to get a learning from you, I guess, going from 2 to 25 people, right? What is something that surprised you, or maybe a hard lesson learned through that process, and then a change that you made? And then just a plus one, the going in with confidence and acting bigger than you are. Fake it till you make it a little bit, right?
Mhm.
um, Big companies do it too. So
Yeah.
when I was at PlayStation early on, and we were nobody, our CMO, our head of marketing, um, his goal was to take video games out of the bedroom and put them into the living room. And one of the main philosophies, one of the main strategies in doing that was making video games cool, right? And how do you do that? He sent free PlayStations to celebrities. He sent free PlayStations to Snoop, right? He
Yeah.
sent them to everybody that he hoped would then start playing them, playing the PlayStation, and then telling other people about it. And if celebrities were okay playing video games, then we could be okay, playing video games again, bring them out of the bedrooms where we're kind of playing on our own, all right, and almost ashamed sometimes, right?
Mhm.
And then really made them kind of pop culture and mass media appropriate. So everybody does it. Everybody does it. You have to have a little bit of that in you, and part of that is also just giving you the confidence to just kind of step into those fields. So
Absolutely.
plus winning that. So yeah, so a lesson learned, maybe something around the team, growing the team, or even the hiring process.
Um, Definitely don't grow too fast, which that was a thing we were prepared for to make sure. Like our publisher actually wanted us to maybe grow a little quicker, but we wanted to make sure we did it at a certain pace because you need a good infrastructure
Hmm.
in your company. Um, Hard lessons learned: laptops break a lot quicker than you might expect. I think the toughest thing we just had, I mean, they were great, and then out of nowhere, people were like having issues, and we didn't have backup inventory. So that process of getting laptops back out in the middle of like sprints and development, that was probably one of the hardest lesson learns that I admit completely was not prepared for. We had a good IT kind of setup where we had logins and everything, so I felt very good about the hardware. But man, that one took me by surprise. I was like, wow, we definitely should have had laptops or hardware in reserve so we can quickly fix issues. Because once a year comes in, laptops just start breaking for all whatever reasons. So that was a big one on the remote, being remote and having to deal with that issue. That was probably one of the hardest lessons learned I had during the process.
Yeah, that can be rough, especially when we had all these supply chain issues, right? So,
Yes, and that, oh man, it's so bad. It's so bad.
yeah, so then you're losing like days, weeks
Hmm.
of time, right? And that's a lot of burn, especially if this is a critical role where everybody else is kind of dependent upon that person being able to kind of move things forward. So
Yeah,
yeah, so that
rough.
that could be rough. You mentioned, so I love this. I'm going to dig into a little bit. Not hiring too fast, not growing too fast, because you need to have a foundation in place. So what's that deliberate kind of pace look like? What's that foundation look like? What did you feel like you needed to set up in order to be able to kind of bring more people on board and then set them up for success, from day one?
Yeah, we brought in, I think it was about 8 to 10 people, and we basically told them like, look, like you're gonna set the culture for this company, so we want to give you time to be able to do that. We want to work with you to figure that out before we bring more people in.
Hmm.
We have opportunity to grow together, so let's define what it is to really be a part of Decoy, what it is to work as a team, what it is to succeed, and learn together, fail together, and all those things, and just be able to building a positive environment. So we knew we had to give our team time to be able to kind of figure out what our company culture was from a remote standpoint and still be able to do that. Um, and then also just start, they got to hit some of the growing pains in the beginning without bringing too many people in. I mean, you can bring more people in is not necessarily going to fix the problem if your pipelines are not um, solid. So a lot of the things for us was to start kind of figuring out what are the pipelines we need. Are we, as our architecture set up, um, for each team to come in and be able to be efficient in their process.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to make sure we defined that enough first. And then once we felt we were comfortable enough, we started kind of our next batch. So as you know, I kind of reached out to you in batches. I was like, okay, I think we're on our ready for our second hiring tier. And looked at the pain points we were having and hired based off that. But yeah, we had to just. I wanted to make sure that things were at enough of a stable level before we opened up the next door for hiring. And it worked pretty well to be able to kind of put it in different tranches before we went to the next stage.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we do it in games, right? If you're doing a multiplayer game, right, you're not going to just launch, right, and try to let millions of people in onto your servers
Hmm.
without testing them, right, with just a few people, right, and then just
Absolutely.
continue to scale that up, right. So that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that deliberate and thoughtful approach. What does it mean to be a part of Decoy Games?
What does it mean? Let's see. It means creating innovative, um, just games, but also having fun while creating games. So I just didn't want to create a company where we're not having fun while creating games. Um, I think everyone on our team can attest that we like to be able to, work hard together, but also make sure we're always putting enough time for us to be able to be comfortable enough with each other to tell our jokes, share our memes, and just be able to make sure it's a casual environment in that sense. Um, but I think one of the biggest differentiators that Decoy Games, a philosophy that me and my brother had, because we worked when we were building the company for 10 years, we worked in a corporate environment in software engineering, both moved to solution sales consulting. And I actually had a great mentor there, and he talked about he had this change agent program at the business I worked at, and it talked about how to build innovation from the bottom up. Um, and I really gravitated towards that because I do believe in companies. True innovation usually doesn't come from the top, even though it's not
Mm-hmm.
structured that way to allow the innovation to come from the bottom. For us, we have a structure where it's actually relatively flat in the sense that we really have our teams and our pods are able to create that feedback loop amongst themselves so that they can help each other set the quality bar. And before it comes to my brother and I, they've been able to work together to be able to provide that feedback and assist with each other without having to think they have like a single art director. It's like just telling them what to do. We
Mm-hmm.
actually look for them and give them opportunity to give us creativity. Like my brother and I have the vision for the game, but we're bringing in talent that also has creative vision and opinions and all that. So we make sure there are opportunities for them to insert their creative perspective on the different things that we create in the game, and it's worked out so well. And that's one thing we make sure is that, and I from the feedback that they gave, they haven't experienced that in the past, where they'd be able to give that much creative freedom
Right.
on what they're working on. We keep there are times where we might reject something if it's kind of too far out there, but more often than not, I mean, there's been some amazing ideas that have came from the team, and we've always, if anything, we're like, well, let's test it out and see, and we'll be able to determine together if that's one of the best paths forward.
Nice. This is really good. Yeah, when you hire talented people, right? When somebody's like, if they're afraid, right, to move forward or try something or um, mention their own creative ideas, because they've got you as leadership that's kind of doing the same. If they're intimidated by that, you sit that person down and you say, look, like we hired you because you're really good at this, so go be really good at this. You don't need me, right? Don't let me stand in your way. I want you to go and shine. So I appreciate that. what can you tell me about that kind of that feedback process, right? So I like the idea of embracing the test, right? So I always look for opportunities to kind of lean in. Somebody come to me with a proposal, I'm like, are we going to go out of business because of this thing, right? Even if I don't believe in it or don't, agree with it or think there might be a better way, like let's give it a shot, right? Because what's the worst that could happen? And one of the best things that could happen is like I learned something new or I'm proven wrong, right? That's incredible. So tell me about this kind of iteration process. So um, and I guess maybe even walk us through like a good or a negative example and how you might receive how somebody on the team might receive feedback.
Yeah, so I mean, from the dev side, we typically try to lay out what we feel is a good like architecture for us to be able to solve some type of development process or whatever. My brother and I try our best to, put down that layer, but it's a lot of times it can be kind of a great way to get started. But we want to empower our devs to come back and say, hey, even today, this morning, one of our devs came back and we're like, "Hey, so I know we're doing it this way, but I feel like started questioning kind of one part of of the pipeline and area." And ultimately, I thought he was 100% correct. I was like, "Yeah, that probably makes sense. We probably should pivot that." So while we give a suggestion, if they we give them opportunities while we're creating like our stories and our tasks during our development sprints that they're able to kind of ask for feedback, but also empower them to have enough knowledge where they can say like, yeah, I don't know if that's maybe the best way to do it. And then we have our conversation. So that's on the dev side. And then especially on like the animation and like 3D modeling and an environment, um, we pretty much make sure they work in their pods, but we have direction of what we want to achieve. But our entire vision for this game conceptually was a lot of it was built by actually utilizing some of the artists that we have to kind of create the vision that we told them. So just by the beginning of when we're creating game, they already were kind of using their creativity to kind of shape it out. So it actually translated well once the team started growing. We just pretty much put the same practice in. So our environment team were like, hey, so here's the environment we're kind of comparing it to, but come back to us and let us know when the research you have that you feel like is the best way to portray this. And the environment team's just churning along. Our animation team, um, one of the things we like to make sure they're doing is given all the tools so they know how to express the characters as far as they can, and rather have them kind of express themselves as much as possible, and then we can reel them back to make sure the engine it fits into the engine. And then with our characters and 3D modeling, like they work closely with our kind of art designers to make sure that we from the kind of we kind of come from like a comic anime type of source material with what we're trying to work with, and they're able to translate that into 3D, and it's like how they can work together to be able to bring that to light. So that all happens with them, and we are able to chime in and kind of give our oversight, but it's nice to see them being able to have all the things that we're able to put out, and it's just exciting from my perspective to just kind of have a vision for something and have this incredible team that's able to bring it to life.
Nice. All right, we're gonna get into the roles soon. I've been asking a lot of questions. Everybody that's out in the audience, please feel free to drop your own questions into chat, and we'll get those served up as well. Um, so yeah, I guess before we get into these open roles, let's if we could provide a little bit of the behind the scenes on your interview and application process. And one thing I'm like really curious about here is we talked about how hiring is hard and you've grown this team so fast and you're attracting this talent. But I know sometimes you close these roles like days after they're listed.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through what like the application interview process looks like? Maybe even how you assess resumes and portfolios. Do you have like a decision matrix? Like what's the criteria that you're looking? How are you able to process this so fast and then get people on the phone, interview and close these roles so quickly?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of resumes that come through. So uh, when those come through, we try to take time to walk through them. I typically Honestly, I will say the same thing. I look for portfolios. That's the first thing. I don't care if you're artist, dev. I look at portfolio first. So if your portfolio, like if your website's not working or that link's not, I mean, it's automatic no, because it's too much I have to go through, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first thing. Make sure your links are all set. And then once I'm there, I I feel like for at least me and my brother, we feel like we can get a lot out of a portfolio and kind of tell, okay, is this someone that is how versatile are they able to be? How do they like to express themselves? How much attention to detail do they take to represent themselves in the way they want to? Like, do they take time to make sure their website looks clean? Are there that's there like I like seeing that because to me that's attention to detail and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things we kind of look for when we're kind of going through the big pile of resumes. So those are things that if you present yourself in a way, that's one thing that we look for. Now, I'm sure we might miss some stuff. That's the hard part too. Is like there's just you get a lot of people that are unqualified, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, due to them, so many of those, it might just make you miss someone that's very qualified. And that's what I always tell people: like, if you don't get hired one place, it doesn't mean you're not good enough. Trust me,
Mm-hmm.
anything could happen. It might just someone might just took the role before, so don't feel like you missed it because of you're just not good enough. And also, if you want to know, ask. I always say that too. Like send us an email and then we'll let you know maybe like our feedback. But that's the first pass is we go through portfolios. So I think even when I'll even answer one of the questions here when the as far as artists what we're looking for portfolios. Um, for us on the so for the animation team, um, I have a philosophy that we found that we're able to hire very talented people that focus more, have a background on like not actually on gameplay, game animations, more in studios. So sometimes cinematic, sometimes just focus on like the acting of animations because we found that even in some studios we work with, if you just did gaming animations, you don't have the versatility to actually like do keyframed facial animations and show different expressions. So we've actually gravitated to bring a lot of the people that we actually have in our animation has never worked in gaming.
Yeah.
And that's actually a big thing that we've done a lot is that we don't really I also don't really look a lot at your gaming experience. Like if you worked at ship 2 games or whatever, I honestly don't really care. I can tell when you have what it takes, I feel. And from the animation side, a lot of our people have not worked in gaming, but they're able to really bring characters to life, and it's like I can teach them what it is to create a running loop in a game that has to hit certain frames and whatever the speed and all that. That's easy. But now I can be able to really utilize their skill set that really brings characters to life, which what they're used to. Um, so a portfolio for animators, we look for like great animation reels. For 3D modeling, now that we have a style, I will say for the 3D modelers, we definitely look for someone that might be around a style that we're looking for in our particular game. So in the beginning, we were really just looking for like show the technical side of your portfolio. That's one thing we always say. Like, so if you're a 3D modeler, show the topology of how you created that 3D model. Don't just show like if the deeper you dive in it, the deeper we're able to see like the way you approach 3D modeling, and then that intrigues us. Same with environment. Show us like how much you're able to break it down because that makes us think like, oh, they really did this on their own. Because sometimes people put stuff that they might have worked on kind of, and actually was worked on a
Right.
lot by someone else, so they got assets. So we can tell if someone really breaks it down. We're like, okay, that person really did build that.
Mm-hmm.
So once we kind of get to the point of hiring, I'd say we always say our first call is a vibe check. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
always say it's our little secret. Like honestly, we're just trying to check your vibe. Like, are you something that we feel like that would fit with our team? And we just want to make sure that it fits the culture we're kind of working with. So it doesn't mean not be nervous. We've had plenty of people that have nervous the first call, but they still can pass a vibe check because we can just tell like they're just nervous, but they seem like someone that would really fit well because we don't want to bring toxicity possibly into the studio. And then after that, we give people like an hour to showcase their work whatever way they want to. So whatever way showcases you as a developer, animator, 3D modeler. It can be a PowerPoint, it can be a video, it can be you doing a dance. I don't, whatever way you feel that makes sense for you. You have a full hour if you want to showcase that, and we just let you go ahead and do that, and we'll ask our questions, and at that point, pretty much close that off with kind of a final meeting. But that's been kind of our structure. Some of them go pretty fast. If there's someone we're like, oh no, we gotta hop on this person like right away. Those are probably the moments where like I close it out really quickly.
Yeah,
Sometimes we
yeah.
have some people where it's like, okay, this is the one we can't. If we don't jump on this person's gonna get taken.
Right.
And then there's some of them that are really competitive, and it's like we just tell people like, trust me, we have a lot coming in. We got to really assess, the different aspects. So
Yeah, that's interesting to hear kind of the motivations and the incentives from your side of the table, right? So we're all applying for these jobs, but and we want this one job, right? And then you're looking at it like, well, this somebody's super talented, right? And the job applicants, you might have 100 plus people all vying for this one job, and it's really competitive. But you're like, okay, well, I got 100 plus companies all vying for this talent, and it's really
mhm.
competitive. So I got to act fast, and really come with a compelling, offer and argument, for why they want to join my team, right?
Yep, for sure.
What you mentioned just like lots of applications, right? So attention to detail, right? Just getting the little things right. And then like broken links, right? You make me work harder, right? I'm
Yeah,
probably just not going to, because I have so many applications that I need to get through. You're helping me weed you out, right? So I can be more efficient in my review process, right? So just that attention to detail and making things really easy on the hiring manager is going to improve our chances significantly already, right?
yeah, for sure.
Um,
Um, yep.
what's the you mentioned so the vibe check, like what's do you have like a standard question, like how does somebody pass the vibe check, but like what are the kinds of questions that you're asking during that initial 30-minute phone call?
Just gotta feel them out. It's not like I don't have a set to follow. We
Okay.
just have them describe, what they've been working on, how they like, what they like about gaming, what interests them about Decoy Games. Have they
Right.
done their research? Do they know
Yep.
anything about us?
That's a big one, right?
Yeah, it's like, know the company you're gonna get hired for. So if you show that you're passionate to work for us and you've done your research, then that's always a plus because we feel like maybe there's just we feel like you're really in it. You really want to be a core of this team.
Yeah,
There's
you're
people that
actually.
are super. Actually, what we do get some people that are really experienced and super talented, but we kind of feel like a pit stop for them. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Hmm.
it's like I came to this interview because I'm looking for my next job, and we're trying to build a core team here. So we're
Yeah.
actually more looking for people that are like want to find like their work home. So
Hmm.
that's a big one too. That's what we're looking at. We're like, this guy, might be here for a year or two, but I don't know. He might just leave. So we're like, it doesn't feel like someone that's going to want to be here for any longer than that.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's a big one, right? And that a lot of people are like, I just want a job, right? I just need a job. I need to pay the bills, right? And I understand that, right? And sometimes that's people are in a difficult position. But for us, we're looking for filling out the team, right? Benefiting the culture, and then not having to be in a position to have to replace that person in another year or two, right? Because again, hiring is hard, it's time consuming, it's expensive, right? So you mentioned there's a lot of reasons that people would, you might not get the job, right? And that's one of it's like you could be super talented, but again, you don't necessarily pass the vibe check, right? And it's just our vibe, right? It's like we just
Yeah.
don't think you're gonna get along with us. Like you're great, right? And there's gonna be great teams out there that are a really good fit for you, but it's we just know that you're not really gonna get along with us, and it's gonna be a little bit harder for on everybody. So we're just gonna pass, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and the other one is like, well, if you come to the interview and you don't know anything about the company, you're just telling us that you want any old job. And we don't want to hire people that want any old job. We want to hire people that want this job. Like they really want to work with us, in this team, in this culture on our game, right? And just doing that research, that's the passionate thing. It's like I don't care that you're passionate about games, right?
Right.
We're all passionate about games if we're in this industry. Tell me you're passionate about my company, and then you just do that by like it's 20 minutes of, especially if you've got an interview coming, right? Like do a minimum 20, 30 minutes of research, and then through that research you actually should be figuring out whether or not it actually is a job and is a company that you want to be working for, right?
Yep.
All right, what you mentioned, okay, so again, like thinking about kind of the vibe check. So who are you looking for your current roles? What kind of person is going to be happy and successful at Decoy?
Um, Man, I mean, it's hard to you can't necessarily say exactly the person because you just kind of get surprised and you're like, wow, this
Right.
is really great. Someone that's just gonna leave an impression. That I think passion is a huge one I look for. Um, but yeah, we're looking for people that are wanting to be a part of something, a core team, and kind of believe in our vision. Um, and we want people that feel like that are willing to build like great team chemistry. Um, Looking for people. I mean, I came from indie. I still feel like we're indie, so I love people that are able to have multiple hats. So that's one thing we kind of look for is like
Hmm.
if you're just good at one thing. Um, I love being able to build people that can be great at multiple things. So having people that are either willing to do that or come in with that is always a big thing we like. It just because for our team, I want to be able to make sure everyone learns like what it really is to create a game and bring it to market. So we try to be transparent with our team to understand that process. So it's like coming in willing to learn what that means. I think we don't. I want to be able to build AAA games, but I never want to have a AAA studio. Um, I don't.
Right.
I'm not sure if I like that culture. I don't know if it ever worked.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it. I don't know if we've been able to prove yet if we can make like Last of Us without the toxicity that might be involved there, right? Or without the crunch or something. Like, have we really proven that we can really churn out these games that way? Maybe we have. I just feel like for us, we want to make sure we can try to do something. We can build these high level games, but still have that culture that feels like you're not being just like a number. Or you're not able
Hmm.
to work together and have your creativity. So people that are kind of willing to have that functionality. Like we'd have turned down people that were so used to that AAA format that we're just like, they might bring that energy here, or
Hmm.
they're looking for that. We're like, no, we kind of like people that come from that indie background and or looking to just grow.
Yeah.
People that don't feel like they have anything to grow, more of a turn off for us. Like even our senior people, I think the senior people we pick, they're people that are like there's things they want to learn and improve on. So that's always something that we want to be able to do.
Yeah, being able to see humility, right, in the interview, right? And humility is just, it's just creating space for more learning and improvement, right?
Mhm.
Somebody who's curious, right? That's a really good sign. You yeah, you mentioned earlier hiring animators from TV and film. By the way, I work with Clay Entertainment, and they've done the same thing. Like basically all their animators are from TV and film. Um, I wonder if do you think that you have more empathy towards and are more open to hiring people from outside of games because you also spent time in this corporate environment where, wasn't in games, and then, you realize that there's opportunity for people in those non-game environments to contribute to a successful game company?
No,
Or the other part was, is it having empathy for, and then realizing that look, we don't have diverse voices, in our games, right? Featured on our games, we don't have them on our game teams, and if they're not represented in our game industry already, you're going to have to hire from outside of games in order to bring more of those diverse voices into our space.
Yep, you nailed it. The second one. I mean, this industry is historically not inclusive. Like, I mean, and if I'm trying to be a thought leader to change that, I can't just recycle the same people that are in the industry. I gotta
Hmm.
give opportunities to people that either outside the industry or the people that are trying to get in and their resume comes through and they keep getting rejected because it's like, oh well, you didn't ship a game yet or you haven't done
Yeah,
this. Like we have to. So yeah, I definitely look for that because um and look, if someone says, well, I have a lot of experience and I worked in games, well, I can't accept that. It's like, well, we're trying to change the industry. So
yeah,
yes, we will give more pass to that. We will give more pass to people that are have not gotten opportunities before, whether that's minorities, women. Like if we're trying to be able to change this industry, I have to look and make sure that they're getting those opportunities. And I don't, and I pick the best people too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like our
sure.
people, we have amazing talent. I mean, undeniably, we make sure that they're the best as well. I just think I'm looking at more resumes that are kind of getting turned away maybe immediately,
Hmm.
just because they're looking for just some single thing typically on the resume. We have people that there's I don't think any of our devs have ever shipped a game before.
Yeah,
But they're incredible.
and they will soon,
They will soon. Like that part, that's why we're here. We're here to
right?
teach them what that is. But I mean, they're incredible devs. They work really hard and they come from like an indie background. So you better believe that they touch a lot of different things and they just bring like a great culture and spirit to it. So we looked at their portfolios and some might come from game jams, most might be personal projects and stuff. But yeah, I mean that's a huge part. If we're gonna make change, then we have to make sure we broaden our scope of who we're looking at.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of our values, and just even just the way we've made the website and like how simple it is, and people are always hitting us up and suggesting all these additional features and things, and you know the lack of features is a feature, and even like the artwork or the language that we use, it's not it's not all video games in your face, right? Which is a
Yep.
lot. Like a lot of video games, that's what we do. It's like video game language and signage and visuals. It's really out in your face, and I'm like, no, I don't want somebody coming in here and feeling like they have to be a part of games or know games or be comfortable with all this, and then bounce because they're uncomfortable or intimidated, right? Like I need this to be accessible because I want those people that are in TV, films, other medias that are curious about indie games to have an avenue, to get in, right? I want to play those games that they were going to create. So that's how we're, one of the ways that we're trying to do it, in in our own little way. But yeah, we've got to reach out to people, right? And we've got to work a little bit harder, right? I get really discouraged by the Twitter posts like, well, I said I want more underrepresented developers, on my job description, but unfortunately, I just mostly got white dudes, right? I'm like, well, you're still only reaching out to your own community, right?
Hmm.
You're going to have to work a little bit harder because in our community, underrepresented people are underrepresented, right?
Hmm.
You gotta work a lot harder to make that happen. So again, appreciate that. All right, we got a couple other questions here. So Tulu says, did you and your brother have an experience creating games before starting your own studio?
I was just about to type. It's just one game in Flash, which was a Swimsanity like version where this little guy collected gold from the bottom of the sea. It looked terrible. Actually, I'm actually gonna see if I can get a screenshot because my brother, he's a terrible artist and he was actually one that drew all of it. But yeah, we started just like a little school project. That's it. After that, we just used Swimsanity, kept building it over and over to see if we can teach ourselves how to make a quality game, and kept bringing it to small conventions and big conventions, and eventually got to where we are now.
All right, and then Hunt asks, I'd love to know about how you continue to get funding despite how difficult it is for game studios to thrive. How do you strive for security in this industry?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think let's see. Yeah, I think the landscape of gaming, it's getting pretty tough. I'll have
Mm-hmm.
to admit. When we were talking about the the Castle Crashers, Explosion Man era, um, I'd actually say post that, when PlayStation started getting independent studios and all that, I think it was easier. I want to say easier then, but you saw more stories of these independent studios, no publisher, having pretty big success, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the ones with millions of sales, but there's still like a decent amount that are getting like hundreds of thousands of sales, maybe like tens of thousands.
Yep.
think that's I think it's getting really tough to be able to do that without getting a publisher or someone that's going to make you stand out from the other competition that's there, or landing some type of licensing deal, whether that's on a PlayStation Plus, Game Pass, or something where you're kind of already getting that built-in marketing. We realized that after releasing some Sanity, where we were like, okay, I feel like the climate is changing, and while we love being in that like self-publishing role, we really need to explore what it's like to have a publisher. Now that we understand what it is to self-publish, we also know now what we need to hold them accountable for to
Mm-hmm.
make sure we're brought to success, which was the position we want to be in. So for us, we're able to sustain it because it took us about, I think, a year and a couple months to close our publishing deal. If you're talking about from like the first moment that we kind of planted a seed. We met someone that was part of publishing, and we at the time, it was funny, they didn't have any type of kind of programs or things set up for our studio to fit in their publishing. But since we planted that seed, and then during this time we went to like 10 other publishers, and we got through with some, failed on others, but they just didn't all fit. They came back and like, I think we got something for you, and that ended up being the one we went back to. But it was a long process, but we built a great relationship with them where we feel pretty secure in the game we're building, and hopefully the game after. So yeah, we went that publishing route, and it's worked really well. And I think, you know, there's a lot to. I could have a whole talk about that on its own. Like it's a lot to know about what it means to get a good publisher, and what it means to get like funding that will help your studio.
I mean, especially early on, right, where you're still trying to establish and build a financial foundation that allows you to maybe do things on your own or take more risks, right? But you've got a big team now, right? So we're thinking about a lot of people in their careers and their longevity, right? Their
Hmm.
families, all of that, right?
Right.
So we're really needing to make really strong financial decisions so you're able to take care of them, for hopefully a considerable amount of time, right?
Right.
All right,
That's the first screenshot of some sanity I just posted. That's I'm not kidding. That's it. That's where we started, right there.
man.
That is Swim Sanity 2010 circa. And well, thank you. Y'all are too nice. Good looks on me. Don't lie.
I
And
love that.
then
I
it
love
turned to
that.
this. That's what Swim Sanity was after. So it's a process of like, okay, how do you get from that to the bottom? You just learn stuff. You learn like, I can show screenshots even in between where it's like we had like HUDs in like the middle of the game that you couldn't even see where you are, but you start to understand like more color theory and like UI UX and better core game loops and excitement of where like you just, it's a repetition and you start getting feedback. But yeah, that's that was the first version. It was just this little person grabbing gold. That was built in Flash, and then obviously then moving to like a game engine, we moved to Unity. That we went from Flash to XNA, bring it back again.
Uh,
Then to Unity, which allowed us to kind of realize what we've been fully realize what we want to do. But yeah, it's a path, man. It's a journey. So stick to it. Don't feel like you have to come out the gate with some like super polished product. That usually doesn't work that way.
what are you building in now?
We're still in Unity.
Yeah.
Yeah, Unity's been good to us. I came from like a Java C Sharp background, so that was the engine that worked for us.
Mm-hmm.
People always ask like like Unreal or Unity. I think to me, I think it's a lot of your background. Like if you were big in C++, I probably would say you might be want to do Unreal because you'd probably just be able to do more things than others can. But in the end, I both engines could do the same thing. You just have to have enough insight on how to get there.
Yeah, I will say that not that this is why somebody should make this decision, but it is a lot harder to find uh, Unreal developers, and
It is tough, yes.
yeah, it's real tough, especially because it's tough. They're so supply constrained
Hmm.
that AAA companies will throw massive packages at them, right? So especially if you're an indie, like then you're competing, with those really in demand, AAA compensation packages. So
Hmm.
it can be really tough. Do you have any parting words for us? Is there anything that I could pass on to some other indie studios, or is there anything you want to say to game developers specifically around kind of growing and building their teams?
Well, for one, feel free to reach out to me. I'm friendly, I promise. I'm gonna drop well, I mean, you guys see my Discord, but yeah, honestly, reach out. I love kind of helping other indies. I don't think it's possible. I had doors open for me, so I got to be able to open doors for others. So don't be afraid. I said to ask. Like a lot of the doors I open for us, I just reached out to people and asked questions. You'll be surprised how many people are maybe willing to just like, you know, see your passion and willing to help. So definitely do that. Like just ask the questions that you need and do get do the research. Like I live and breathe this stuff, man. Like the indie game business. Like sometimes people wonder like what I do day to day. I mean, I wake up every morning. I'm looking at GameDeveloper.com, looking at Games Industry Biz. I'm checking out the press websites. Typically go see GDC drop a new video on YouTube of learning something. Let me see. Is that something I want to learn? What is Unity posting? Like I'm always learning. I'm checking if there's any new books that came out. Talk about indie game business or game business. Any retros, like stuff like these talks. Like you just the more and more you involved, like the more you can kind of learn. And the answers are all out there. Just gotta kind of get your head into it.
Right on. Maybe if we run into each other at Dice, we could talk more about the indie game business. And talk about
Absolutely.
platforms and Steam and stuff like that, and
I
how
love
we're thinking
this.
about.
Yes.
Yeah. Any okay, so Shelbs asked, do you have a favorite book recommendation?
Yes. What's it called? It's actually that indie game business book. What is it? It's okay. I won't leave until I find it. Um, let's see. It was by I feel like people in this chat might have seen it before. It's the handbook game, indie game handbook. Hold on. I feel like I'm gonna find it. Or game business handbook. Yes, I found it. The game dev business handbook. Yes. I got the website. I'm gonna post it right now. I'll say honestly, this book, both of these books have like 80% of the answers in it. I think
Right.
it's one.
Yeah.
It's a great book, man. I listen. I tell people just go and read that. That's a
Uh-huh.
great starting point as an indie studio. A lot of people share their stories, and it has. I used I started our budget sheet from the game dev budgeting handbook, and then just knowing what it is to what should I expect, how much I don't know, writing costs or voice acting costs or like great book. I highly recommend it. It's extremely well done. It's very easy to read. I've read it probably multiple times at this point, and I kind of use it as to go back and reference. But yes, that's my top book
Cool.
for reading.
I haven't checked that out. I'm going to do that. I haven't because I'm probably too arrogant. I'm like, I've been in video games forever, right? I mean, I got to know all this stuff. I bet there's going to be a ton I'm going to learn. I also like that, like, look, 80% of it is here. I like your answer. I do this too. Just go do this, right? Just read this thing. Simplify it, right? It's not actually all that complicated. I just want you to do this, right? I'll get you 80, 90% of the way there. And maybe we could tweak some things just because our flavor, right? We do things a little bit differently. But if you just do this simple thing, right, you're going to be good. You don't need to spend, weeks, on YouTube and reading, like just do this. So
you
I
at
like
least
that.
eliminate the really bad mistakes that you could have avoided. Like get yourself on the right path, like starting off.
Yeah, appreciate that. If you don't, I'm gonna ask you one other question,
Sure.
if you don't mind. But I guess my question is a question to you. What question didn't we ask that you wish that we should have?
Oh, that's let's see. I don't know, you did a really good job. Is there a question you didn't ask I wish you should have asked? Man, I wish you
Putting
didn't
him
ask
on
that
the
question.
spot, Nate.
I know, that's the question I
Yeah.
wish you didn't ask. That's a tough question.
We can cut this. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, no,
I just want
honestly, you
if there's
you did a really good job. The questions in the chat were great. I'm just talking about myself trying to come up with a good answer for that. No, I mean, I don't have any. I thought that was pretty good. I'd say like I think the only thing was not ask for my information. That would be the only thing, actually, to be honest. I feel like you got 30 people in the room, and y'all can reach out to me. So that's it. Boom. You didn't ask for my information.
oh, we were gonna do that. We're gonna do that next. We gotta save the plug for last, right? So I hope you got some ready to copy and paste. Where can we find everything about you? Reach out to you, catch up with you, and learn more about Decoy. And I know we can't learn about the game yet. You're being really tight-lipped on the game. Am I going to get anything out of you next week on the game? Are you going to tell me more one to
No,
one?
unfortunately, no chance. We gotta, you gotta wait. When it
Right.
happens, when you see it, you're gonna be like, oh man,
Yeah.
that guy that was in the AMA session, that's his game. Boom, you're gonna know.
All right. I appreciate it. Drop your links in the chat before
Yes,
you bounce out.
absolutely.
Ron, this was a lot of fun. Yeah, let's keep it going. We'll talk next week. Uh, we'll repost the links. Right, Ahmed is hiring right now
We are
for a
hiring.
bunch of roles.
That's the first link.
Yeah, so go check out those open roles. Find something that would be a fit for you, or recommend a friend. Right, we've got a great studio working on really awesome games and doing something different and hopefully being a really great aspirational, inspirational example for other indie devs and even AAA devs in games. So let's help fill out this team with some incredible people. So go apply and tell your friends.
Yes, indeed.
Tell all your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell your family. Call your aunt and uncles and yes, your cousins.
All right, we're gonna end this chat. Ahmed, we've got in Zencaster, so we will still be live and chatting with each other once we end this Discord. So just don't talk too much smack about me. That was just a warning.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
All right.